a prostitute, right? Or a prostitute does what they do, basically because there's money involved. They do it for money. Whereas a slut does it for the love of the game, right? I'm a comedy slut. I'm a stand-up slut. I do it for the love, for the passion. Yes, there's money that exchanges hands a lot of the times, but it's not the primary motivation. I do it for the love of the game.
All right. Hey.
All right, let's check the audio. Is the audio good now?
Yeah, audio sounds stellar. Yeah, let's go.
I've been working my ass off to get this done right.
Welcome to the Johnny Rogers Show, Mark.
Welcome to yourself, because I feel good that I've actually gotten this done after doing what? We tried once, then we tried a second time, and I failed on both.
No.
Sort of like my wedding night, but that's another story for another time, son. What's happening, bud?
Not much, man. How are you?
Living a good life. I really can't complain too much. I'm enjoying life. Now, if we hear any noises in the background, let me warn you.
Okay.
I have a dog chewing on itself in the back. She might go to sleep and snore. So
I got a cat in a cat tree, I guess it's called, so she could just decide to jump on the desk at any moment. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, if mine does that, I'm gonna lose my mind.
Mark, for people who don't know who you are, do you want to give just first like a little bit of background on yourself?
All right, background on me. I am a professional stand-up comedian for the past 28 years, professional entertainer for the past 30 something. Probably I've been an entertainer for the past 37 years. So that's a very long time. If you pick up an accent, I am originally from the Caribbean, a little island in the Caribbean called Trinidad and Tobago, the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. I migrated to Canada 28 years ago to pursue the dream of becoming a stand-up comedian, and I've been doing thus for the past 28 years. There you go.
Yeah. The first thing that I think throws most people off about you is you look like you're about to tell me something about, how January 6th wasn't that bad. And then you start talking and you're like, hold on a second.
I thought you were gonna say I look like that is it a Pokemon guy that's the real dirty guy? What's his name? Master
like
Roshi?
A member of Duck Dynasty.
No, Master Roshi. Isn't Master Roshi the pervert?
Yeah, you could pull that off too if they did a
my kids keep telling me I look like a pervert.
They just stop at pervert.
Yeah, I'm okay
Sometimes
with that.
less is more when it comes to the analogies. How do you navigate that though? Being like, because I mean, that must be just an interesting part of your daily life, like looking one way, but being from, like you said, the Caribbean.
Yeah, I tell people that I'm an audible minority because on a visual spectrum, I'm ignored.
Yeah,
because I'm part of the masses. It's when I talk. When I talk, everything changes. I get it. People aren't accustomed to seeing people of my complexion sounding the way that I sound. I get it. And then my kids are the ones that are like, I have the patience of Job when it comes to telling people about it.
Yeah.
Because most people just don't understand the history outside of their domain. So a Canadian and American, they just don't understand the history of the Caribbean, right? The Caribbean islands were owned by the Dutch, the French, the Spanish, the English. They interchanged. The colonization was a bitch. So some of them actually stayed around. So historically, I might be of French heritage, I'm not too sure. We're still debating that. But I do know that I have indigenous as well in me. So the people of the Caribbean, the tribes that were there were the Caribs and the Arawaks, and I'm part Carib. So that's how I have a very muddled history. But I take my time. I try to educate people. I don't get worked up. I don't go 0 to 100, except on stage.
Yeah,
Generally,
yeah.
generally, I just try to help people out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. It's just the best way to be. Like, you're not going to
Yeah.
make someone understand something by coming at it with an angry tone. They're just going to
Uh,
shut you down.
you've been watching American politics, have you?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's a whole fucking mess. I can't. Oh my God.
Yeah,
The fact that those are their options, I like it's done, guys. Just
yeah.
start over. You need a new
The
system.
challenge, I think the entire political spectrum has to go through a revamp.
Mm-hmm.
Democracy is a good thing. Having people have the ability to have their voices heard and recognized, that's a good thing.
Yeah,
However, the challenge is certainly in the US, there's not enough parties to choose from. So it
that's the thing.
becomes, as they say, a binary system. It's left or right. It's
But it feels that way in
conservative or
Canada
liberal.
also, right?
Well, we do have a little more choice,
We
a
do,
little
but
more.
not. I think we have the illusion of choice because the NDPs have formed a coalition with the Liberals, so they do have sort of the similar interests in that if you vote for NDP, what does everyone say when you say you're going to vote NDP? They're like, "Oh, you're throwing your vote away. You're giving it to the Liberals, or you're giving it to the Conservatives." Whatever the opposite side is that they believe in, if you tell them you're voting NDP, they usually go, "Oh, you're throwing your vote to them." Like, it doesn't matter, which I think is insane because I'm like, they're not, it's not a bad, like, they don't have a bad set of ideas that they want to push forward. Do you think that it would be more of a trilateral like decision where you have really like it goes between these three options every whatever it is, 8 years, however
Yeah,
long our Canadian dictators decide to stay in office? You know what I mean, though? Like, America makes sense in like the 4 year terms. Like that to me, I feel like should be the universal thing. But in Canada, it's so hard to understand. They just kind of stay there until people don't like what they're doing, and then they call for an election. Like, wasn't
yeah,
Harper in office for like something? He was in office like most of my life.
yeah. But they won
Sure,
elections in
they
order
won
to
elections
do
back
that.
back to back, but the fact
Listen,
that he could
here's
stay there for so long is the question.
but that's the thing. If people put them back in power, yeah, they have a right to stay because the people made the choice to put them back in power. I'm Listen, I am by no means a political pundit or savant, or
Yeah.
I'm a dummy, right? Straight up, I'm a
Sure,
dummy. But
yeah, here's the disclaimer. This is two
yeah,
Canadian
you have to do the
comedians just
disclaimer. I'm
talking
a dummy.
shit. I
But
don't know anything.
here's my dummy idea, right?
Mhm.
My dummy idea is certainly in the US, this is true for the US. The political swings every 4 years, that pendulum every 4 years. Well, a Democrat is in charge, and then the economy does bad. So then they put in
Yeah,
the Republican, and then the economy does bad, and they put back in. So that
yeah.
political swinging thing, nothing gets done
No.
because they're always in the mode of let's make sure we get back in again. So they'll do certain things. You don't have enough time to enact stuff. So in my opinion, the terms for whatever party is in charge should be longer, not shorter, not 4 years. It actually should be longer, which would encourage the electorate, the people electing them,
Mhm.
to pay maybe a little more attention and listen to them properly and have long
Yeah.
story debates and stuff like that so that they make a really educated choice. Because right now, both in Canada as well as the US,
Yeah.
not enough of the electorate actually votes.
Yeah.
So the amount of people that actually could vote, it hovers in between the 30 and
It has been
40%.
going up, which is good. I think the
I like
more
Australia. Australia has a mandatory vote system. I believe
ah,
that it's mandatory. You have to vote because
yeah,
then
yeah,
you get
yeah.
the cats that are bitching and whining and they never voted.
What
You're
is it?
not playing
Alex
your
Wood
part.
had a great bit about that. He said it's like choosing between a hammer. Someone said you're gonna have to stick a hammer or this cactus up your ass, and he goes, "I don't want to stick either of those up my ass." He's
Yeah,
just,
so I'm not doing
either
either.
way, either
But
way, it's gonna happen.
that's when you have a binary system. You
Yeah,
have
yeah,
left or
yeah,
right.
yeah.
The Dutch, I think the Dutch as well. No, the Nordic countries, they do a ranked voting system. So
Mm,
when you go to vote, you don't vote for just one, right? You
yeah.
are actually voting for, I like this as my first choice. I like this as my second choice. If that person who come, well, this is my third. And
That
that way,
seems better.
if nobody wins clearly,
Yeah.
then they take out all of the first, and then they start to count by the second choices.
Yeah.
So it's a system that causes one political party to look at the other political party, and instead of saying bad things about them, which will disenfranchise the people,
exactly,
you say good things about them because you're trying to win some of their party.
Yeah.
Right? So
That
the
makes
whole
sense.
thing changes around, as opposed to being to being like, oh, well, I love what Mr. Rogers has said about this particular sewage problem that we're having, right? You know what I mean? You get that kind of shake hands across the aisle kind of thing instead of the
it changes the
we have going
voter's
on.
mindset too, right? Because when a voter is like trying to decide who to vote for and they're watching all these ad campaigns for different parties, if it's 1v1, they're just going to be, all the ads are just going to be slamming the other party and how corrupt they are and how evil they are. And they're the bad guys and we're the good guys.
Which
but
is
if you
what
have
causes,
a ranked, which causes mass hysteria of people legitimately thinking like, you know, it's like a Marvel movie and they're evil doers. It's like,
y'all have to understand, I'm from a third world country, right? And in the third world country, shit runs differently. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on your podcast.
Of course.
Yeah. Shit runs different.
Yeah.
There are guys with machetes that if you wear in the wrong colors, like the Bloods and the Crips, you wear in the wrong political party colors,
that's the government.
They chop your ass up, right? That's the kind of shit that goes on in, as they call it, the banana republics, right? We don't really do bananas. We do mangoes. So we have a mango republic, right? So y'all could talk all your shit, but you're starting to become more like us.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm gonna put my dog out.
Go for it.
I'm back.
Yeah. I just did a clap note so I know where to cut. I just have to look for the little spike.
I don't edit shit. Keep everything in.
Yeah. All that moment. It's just dead air for people listening. They're like, what is happening? It's
worth it. Wait a little bit, bitches.
Have patience. That's all that matters.
Yeah, the challenge is we live in a society today that does not understand patience. Thankfully, I have a little bit of patience because I have aged. And when you get to be a certain age, you have been given that gift of being able to look at things from a different vantage point. Because nowadays, the young people, such as yourself, would be they want to see things change immediately. But because I've lived a long life, I can look back and say, oh, things change. They're just incremental and take time. So I have that vantage point, a little bit of experience there. The younger people, not so much. I get it. So, I try to teach and preach patience as well. So
I feel like, my generation and maybe Gen X, a bit of Gen X too, or like later Gen X's, are more like in that lack of patience with getting shit done because we're in the positions to get that stuff done. We're no longer like really the kids of the society. We're actually aging into those positions where real like change can happen if the right people are in the right positions, right?
Well, again, from the vantage point of time. what I'm can say that I'm really impressed by is I'm really impressed by the fact that you're and I'll put everybody under the millennial heading, right? I know there's a lot of subcategories, but just go with me. The younger generation, what you all have done is that you've made sure that certain things are pushed forward. I know my generation, it's a little harder for us to change. There's a lot of verbiage that's new now, a lot of thought processes that are new now, and it's hard for us to get there. We'll get there. It just takes a lot of time to reprogram, right?
Of course.
But y'all are pushing that pendulum forward, and what we were accustomed to was incremental. Y'all have sped it up, and we appreciate that about you. It just like I was saying before, with the younger people not having the patience, they have to now turn around and give that patience to us because we haven't caught up yet with the mental part of it. It takes time. I mean, a cruise ship takes a long time to turn, but eventually it turns. A battleship
Mhm.
turns. It takes time. A small boat turns quick. Big boat, a little longer. So we're getting there.
Yeah, it depends on
And
the
we
idea.
appreciate what you guys have
Yeah.
done because we weren't able to do it as fast as you have been able to do it.
Well, I think it was millennials are the some, I should say, are the perfect bridge for that gap because we experienced pre-internet and
Yes.
like the life that you had become completely accustomed to, meaning no cell phones, no internet. You can open up a map and know exactly how to use it to get yourself somewhere. You can change a tire immediately. Everything is analog in physical world because that's all that there was and all that
Yes.
there was before that, right? So that had been hardwired. And then millennials come into this weird period where we're turning like 13, 14, and then like the internet is becoming such an like in the most crucial like growing period of our
Yes.
lives, we're
Yes.
growing with
Yes.
the growth of the internet, which was exponential. From the
Yes.
time that I first like pulled up google.com and typed in my first Google search to the time where I was in college and had a BlackBerry and I had Instagram and Facebook and like social media was becoming more of a thing, which I was only like 18, 19. Like I'm a child of the internet, basically. Like all of that stuff is right there. But I still remember my parents just being like, go play outside, come back when the street lights come on. And that was how you entertained yourself was with your brain, right? So I feel like we have that patience, but also the understanding of how fast it's going to get for Gen Z and Gen Alpha after us. They're
Yeah.
just iPad
Your
kids.
your social awareness in comparison to my generation was kicked into gear with steroids because of
Yeah,
social
yeah.
media, because of the internet and stuff like that. Your social awareness was not. This is why the younger people nowadays are so much more advanced to what my people were at, right? Because we only learned by what we could see within our environment. And your environment is the world now, right? There was a point where I think I remember a documentary that spoke about how breakdancing had advanced, even though I haven't seen a breakdancer. I was
Yeah, I haven't
around
seen
from
a
the beginning of
break
that.
dancer in a
But yeah, yeah.
while.
But
But yeah,
you the sub Asian continent broke would break dance in a particular manner,
yeah.
and because
Mm-hmm.
the internet came about in a certain amount of time, then break dancers in New York would see what was going on in Tokyo, would see what was going on in India, would see what, and then all of a sudden, all these moves started to that exponential curve took place because and then they were doing some wild stuff that wasn't being
Yeah.
done before simply because you've become aware, right?
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
why I think knowledge is something that I hope that one day we do get that what's it called? Was it Musk or Microsoft
Oh,
that was
yeah,
trying to
yeah.
introduce the thing where
I think it was
you're
Elon Musk.
connected to the internet all the time?
What's it
I hope
called?
that happens because that
Cyberlink
could be
or
wild.
something like that.
Cyberlink was one of them. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think
And
that was
Google
what it was called.
Glass. And yeah, yeah. There's a bunch of them working
I
on
was
that stuff.
I was saying that about
Yeah.
comedy though. Like the traditional route for comedians, right, was you work on your first 5 minutes, you grind at open mics for as long as you can, like finding your voice and your stage presence and getting that confidence up. Then you try to maybe get it booked on some bar shows. You keep trying to get into the clubs. Like maybe you get an agent and go on auditions. Like there was all these ways that you could quote unquote make it in the industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the main focus always was, you know, you put out an hour after you've done 10, 15 years, maybe even longer than that. Wait
Mm-hmm.
15 years before you put out like an hour of your comedy material. But I think that whole metric is going to rapidly change because the accessibility to how to do comedy is never been greater. Like somebody could start comedy today and they could listen to multiple 3-hour podcasts with comedians who have been doing it like a combined 75 years, get the best advice possible, take that all in. There's 100 books written on how to write a good joke. There's so many resources available for a person to become really proficient at comedy or skateboarding, whatever their like
Yeah, yeah,
passion
yeah.
is,
Yeah.
that their growth is going to be exponentially faster than like what everyone else's has been, because they're born into this like moment in time where all this information is just so easily accessible and free. Like
Yes.
I think someone's going to be like 5 years in and you're going to go, whoa, this guy like, or this girl like sounds like they've been doing it for like 20 years.
Yeah, this is why. Well, having said that, we cannot negate the fact that you have to be on stage doing it, right? You have to put in your
100%
10,000
for
hours.
sure.
Nothing's going to change that.
For
But
sure.
back in my day, how did you learn from someone in the art form? You had to learn from someone in the art form, and if you didn't have access to them, all you had was books, right? And but the thing about the people now is that books are outdated. By the time a book is printed, put on the shelves, get some advertising, you get to reading it, the information is already aged.
Yeah.
Right. Which is why listening to comedians on a podcast, and they could be on the other side of the world, right? Being able to learn like that's why you guys have, like I said, your growth and your potential and your awareness is on a different level to what we had. And that's glorious. But in terms of our art form, specifically stand-up comedy, you could read as much as you want, you could listen as much as you want, but you will never be able to get things that are necessary for you to advance yourself as a comedian without putting in the time on stage, being able to understand and be aware of where the laughter starts to come down so that you can now step back in, right? Being strong enough in confidence of being on stage to know and to utilize silence, because a lot of comedians don't understand that. Some comedians are afraid of silence. When I talk about when you start as a comedian, all you're doing is trying to hear your own voice. You're literally trying to remember the words, trying to say it. You're listening to yourself. The second stage, so that's the first stage, you're hearing yourself. The second stage is when you actually do have, your voice down and you start to listen to the audience. Now you're listening for the laughter, right? That's the second stage. But the third stage, that not everybody jumps into the third stage, right? Because it takes a while to get to that. The third stage is when you start to listen to the silence. The silence when you're setting up your joke because you have them. The silence, right? Right before you hit them with that punchline. That's the stuff that actually gets our nipples hard, right?
It's the tension building.
Yes. Right. That's the third level that we'll get to eventually. But some cats, they don't ever hit that level because they're still listening to their own voice. Right. They haven't gotten past that stage with, right? And some people get so enwrapped by the second stage where they're listening for the laughter and they want to kill and they're hearing that. And I'm like, you still have more developing to go. There's more to come. Right. And you see some of the masters in that stage. Right.
I think the easiest way to get past that, to get to that level, in my opinion, and obviously I'm not like, I feel glimpses of like that, sometimes when I'm on stage, and then some other times I might just be listening to myself, right? But I feel like the best way that I can sort of tap into those moments of being able to hear the silence or being able to like hear what the crowd is doing and react to it in time is by remembering that to them, I'm a character. Everyone for the most part feels like they're the star of their own movie, right?
Yes.
So if they're sitting in a comedy show audience and watching this comedian, me on stage, they're just viewing me as this character that's there to make them funny. So if that's the perceived reality of the audience, why would I be afraid to lean into acting more like a character on stage? Being bigger with like my, animation, my facial expressions, like act that character. Too many people try to be like themselves on stage, which sounds funny to say, but like you can't just be like 100% how we talk like this just on stage. You kind of have to put it on a little bit. You have to you have to like lean into certain words and pull stuff out and like pause oddly that you wouldn't normally do in a conversation, right? Like it's a performance.
Well, okay. So there's different ways to attack that. Okay, so now what I've noticed in the generation now, and I'll bring us back to politics. The generation now has understood that we do live in a binary system. And some people have recognized that and have decided to make themselves into a character that will try to monetize themselves by being of one of the different binary systems, right? My generation, or the people that I followed, or the people that I looked up to and said I want to be like, was the generation that wanted to make sure that you were you on stage, to get to the rawest form of you, to have integrity. What I'm portraying is what I am, or what I believe, or what I'm trying to talk about. My opinions are true, right? So that was my generation. The am I allowed to name names? There was some podcast that I've done where no, that was a TV show. Anyway, so the Richard Pryors, right? They weren't playing a character; they were being themselves. However, having said that, I try to be me, but I also recognize I did theater for 10 years. So as a theater performer, I understood and was trained in how to utilize my voice properly, where to stand on a stage, because if I'm doing a joke about being a victim, or being less than, or being dumb, right? I would stand to the back. I would, physically make myself smaller. If I was doing a joke that was a little more aggressive, a little more of a tone and energy, I would be closer to the front of the stage, because then I appear bigger. So all these little things that I incorporate into the joke, because you can now milk the joke to be, 1%, 2%, 5%, even 10% stronger, simply because of where you stand, your inflection, your tone, all those things I incorporate because I did theater, right? But it's still, even though I'm utilizing those little things, it's still me. So for me, it's a challenge watching the new cats coming in, because I don't know who they actually are until I've seen them multiple times, until I've hung out with them off stage. Because I'm not just a comedian, I'm a comedy show producer, right? So I'm looking for comics that know themselves, right? You get to see it, and then you want to say, aha, that's what I want on my stage. You know what I mean? I want to see cats that, 99% of the time you can bring it on stage. There are some comedians that have the belief that every time they go on stage, it's a totally new set. And I'm like, no, my generation used to sit down with pen and paper, bro. And we'd sit down, we'd write this stuff over and over again. And then we go on stage, write it back down, go back on stage, right back up. But we wouldn't be trying to make it up. That's ad lib. That's Colin Mockery and these cats. That's not our art form. So yeah. I went off on a rant there. That's the ADHD. I can't remember what we started off with.
I think
I've been taking mushrooms. It helps, but it's not full. It's not.
Well, I should ask. What was your one word for the episode?
Oh yes, I had words, and I thought maybe I could be like one of those intellectual people and have really intellectual words. Sassosexual. What's the thing attracted to people that are intelligent? Yeah, that word. I was like, no, I can't do that. So what I'll do is I'll do a word that appeals to me, even though some people it might be bad. Slut. I like the word slut. not because people get worked up because of it. Right?
I have to put this on Instagram.
The old generation.
So many messages.
It's a big word. I know. A lot of people nowadays are like, slut is a derogatory term. Not to me. Not to me. Right? Because people have this connotation when we say slut, you're thinking about an individual that is promiscuous and all this kind of nonsense. But that's not the only meaning of the word, right? A slut is somebody that, what's the best way to describe it? Okay, a prostitute, right? Or a prostitute does what they do, basically because there's money involved. They do it for money. Whereas a slut does it for the love of the game, right? I'm a comedy slut. I'm a stand-up slut. I do it for the love, for the passion. Yes, there's money that exchanges hands a lot of the times, but it's not the primary motivation. I do it for the love of the game. Slut.
I can't wait to see the reaction I'm gonna get
Oh.
on Instagram when I make that little promo square that says Marc Trinidad episode 119 slut.
Comedy slut.
Comedy slut. Yeah, I'm gonna
I
write
love it.
comedy slut because it kind of like writing comedy slut, you're kind of like, oh, that's like very jokey and jovial, but just slut, you're like, damn, like it's such a it's one of those words where just like just in the way that you say it, there it's the hard T at the end of it. It's the connotations behind it and how it's been used over
There's
time.
another word that I could think of that has a hard T in it.
Sure.
Oh yeah. Actually,
I love that.
I'm not gonna say it, but I have an album that I want to do, and it's going to have that in the title.
Okay. a little work in progress. We're not gonna.
Oh, I've been sitting on that for a while. I'm like, that's gonna be my title name.
Yeah,
oh yeah, wow,
nice. Wow. Yeah, tell me about this mushroom experience. Have you done mushrooms? Like, is this your first time doing it recently?
Okay. Let me explain mushrooms with me. All right.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own journey. This is my journey.
Sure.
So I had one of my children, my wife and myself. We've been married now for 30 something years.
Congrats.
And we have 4 kids. One of them, we got diagnosed with ADHD. I was trying to figure out if I had it as well, but I never went to get it diagnosed. It's in sitting down with the psychiatrist when they were diagnosing my child, when the psychiatrist looked at me, because I was saying things like, oh, I got that, and I got that, and I got that. And then they told me, yeah, it's hereditary. So I got ADHD. One of the things that upon reading and listening to podcasts and going and doing our hyper focus thing that us ADHD people do, I found out that mushrooms, specifically a type of mushroom called lion's mane. Lion's mane can help us people with ADHD. So I sourced and found that there was a company that makes lion's mane coffee. So they add these beneficial mushrooms to coffee. It's a Canadian company. I think it's pureshrooms.ca. Anyway, so plug it. They got a plug.
Free plug.
So I ordered mushrooms, mushroom coffee from them, specifically the lion's mane. They have a whole bunch, but I ordered the lion's mane.
Okay.
Having drank that, the stuff made me concentrate better. I even tried it with my wife and my kids, and they seem to have a little more productivity as a result of it, right? I didn't pre-program them. I didn't tell them what was going to happen. They drank the coffee, and then I asked questions afterwards.
You dosed them?
How do you feel? Yeah. So
is the door moving?
Not like that. But it was because of having such a good experience with that type of mushroom that I started to think about the psilocybin specifically now. So I'm like, all right, cool. Let me see where I could source that. And I have some people that are friends of mine that know some irreputable people.
Yeah.
All right. So I got some, capsulated it. I literally put it in a coffee grinder, ground it up, put it into capsules, and I started to microdose. I found out that you could get on a take one pill every 3 days kind of thing. Anyway, I got on that, been on that for years now. It helps us people a lot. I mean, a lot of times we have things with depression. We have things with mood swings. We have things with procrastination. These are some of the things that show up with ADHD, and they've been, because of the psilocybin, it's been very beneficial in tempering those things. You still do get some depression, right? You still would have perfectionist stuff. You still would have, all of these things that go along with ADHD.
Sure.
But a lot of it seems to fade. Like it's not as powerful, right? So because of that, I've been living on it for the past few years now, and there's no way I'm ever going to get off of it. It doesn't. What the psilocybin does is it doesn't have the side effects that the pharmaceutical drugs have. So yeah, I prefer the psilocybin. I prefer the magic mushrooms to the prescription drugs, as they're called.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, like if you're finding more benefit from doing something that's clearly natural and just grows on the planet, it's like that to me makes
Yeah,
the most
but
amount of sense,
you want to
versus
hear some
like
wild shit?
what?
Listen, I've never taken drugs to get high, but here's the wild shit, right? They Psychiatrists and psychologists are using it now in a bunch of different arenas to try and help people with, let's say, who have cancer, right?
Mm,
Who have terminal illnesses and stuff like that. And they'll put them in a clinical setting, controlled environment, and they'll give them a huge dose, what they call a hero's dose, right? Which is about 6 to 8 grams,
yeah,
like heavy dose, right?
yeah, yeah.
And a lot of people that take it no longer have the fear of dying, right? And most human beings have a fear of dying. They don't want the ride to be over. But I'm like, let's think about something. Let's connect some dots here, right?
Mhm.
If you take mushrooms and you no longer have the fear of dying, and by the way, me taking it in these micro doses, it has a compounding effect. I seem to have the same things that a lot of people that take macro doses have said occurs when you take them, right? But
Okay.
here's a question for you. What happens when you die? You're put into a box and then
Uh-huh.
you decompose, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what are the things that literally breaks down, all life on this planet?
What breaks down?
Mushrooms.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now, some mushrooms have the ability to take over insects' minds. We know about some mushrooms that release spores and they take over ants and they make the ant walk out into a populated area so that the spores boom and then more ants get infected. We have a lot
Mm-hmm.
of examples of mushrooms doing that kind of stuff. Now,
Yeah.
a lot of people now who are taking mushrooms have no fear of dying. Are the mushrooms taking us over
I
and
don't
saying,
know.
yo, don't worry, son, die?
Yeah, it's all good, fam. Just
Because now they're
die.
gonna eat us, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just,
yeah.
are they propagating themselves? What's going
Damn,
on?
Mark.
You see what I'm saying? I don't know if I trust
Holy
these mushrooms,
shit.
baby.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. These
yeah,
mushrooms seem like
yeah,
they're on our side, but they're really just trying to get us to die so they can
that's
eat us.
exactly what I'm saying, son.
Fuck, because the world is ruthless like that. Like even have you
Yo,
ever
that
heard
Instagram thing, nature
Nature's
is
Metal? Oh, I love that
yeah, bro.
Instagram. It's so sick.
I love it. I love it.
It's
My
so
kids get
you're
upset because I keep sharing them with them, and they're like, "I don't
like,
need
that's
to
real
see a
life.
bear eating the asshole of an antelope," and I'm
No,
like,
you
"No, you need
do.
to see that."
You need to see that because you're never going to see that. And because you're never going to
Well,
see that, no, but like you need to see those things to appreciate the people that came before us that pushed all of that out so that we could exist in a society without having to see that every day.
you are blessed in
You
that you
know?
get to see it on a
Blessed.
screen,
It's
as
crazy.
opposed to some of us that grew up in some environments where we'd be seeing dogs doing that to other dogs,
And you have
right?
to
We'd be
run
seeing
from
some
it.
wild shit. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So enjoy it on a screen, baby.
Oh my
1080p
God.
or whatever 4K resolution that it's in now. Enjoy that.
There's this thing though that cats toxoplasmosis.
Yeah,
So
that's where the rats. Oh yeah, I
yeah,
know this stuff. Oh yeah,
that
yeah.
thing takes
I pay
over a
attention.
rat's brain, convinces it like again that
Like the
it's
cat is a friend.
invincible, and the cat's a friend, and like literally changes its brain chemistry so
This
that it can move on to the cat to live longer.
this is why I'm saying, bro. I think
Like
these
that's a
mushrooms are
good
trying to say,
theory.
yo, it's okay to die.
Fuck yeah, I'm not taking
You see what
mushrooms
I'm
anymore.
saying? Nature's a bitch,
I thought I was
bro.
talking to God. I was just talking to some hungry mushroom this whole time. What the
You ever heard
fuck?
about them? What are they called? The fig wasps.
Big
Like
wasps?
yeah, there's a type of wasp that burrows into the fig. All
Oh
right,
yeah,
figs,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
and they're the ones that
Uses it.
literally makes the fig get ripe or something like that.
Oh,
But literally, when they plant their seeds or their sperm or their eggs or whatever it is inside it, they
Yeah.
come out and literally look for a female. Their life cycle is like ours.
Yeah. That's
Yeah, they're
wild.
constant fuck and die. It's
That's
just
insane.
fuck, seeds, eggs, death. It's so that's yeah.
That'd be nuts if life cycle was just that. Like we're in this meat body for a bit, and then we come back as a wasp that just fucks it and then dies, and then we come back again as something else. Like,
Yeah, but you
you
could look.
know?
I mean, we have the benefit of time where we have a concept of what time is, but
Yeah.
these cats probably have no concept of time, right?
No, no.
So,
And in the
even
grand scheme
so,
of things,
in the
there is
grand
no
scheme of
time.
things,
There is
there's no
no
such thing as
time.
time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We're
Which is
gone in
so
a
wild
blink.
to think about.
The planet looks at us like we are the fig wasp, right? Look
Yeah,
at how
yeah.
quick they're gone. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure the planet wants
1,000%.
us to go as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it's working on it
Shit we doing.
slowly shifting the shit to get rid of us.
Listen,
The
I've watched enough TED Talks that I know that there are some really intelligent people working on all the problems of the planet. And hopefully, there'll be some people who are financially blessed that will be able to help out and get some of this stuff done, because I know all the things that we talk about can be solved.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah. If you put together 100 of the world's greatest minds and paid them enough money, they could fix almost any problem that we have.
oh, no, the solutions are there. It's
Like,
just
without
that we don't
question.
have people to pay for it.
Yeah. You
You
need
know
someone
what I
to
mean?
bankroll that sort of thing,
You
because no one's
need
just gonna.
people to bankroll it.
If you're being called one of the world's greatest minds, you're like, I'm not doing that for free. You just called me the world's greatest mind.
No, shit can get done.
I want millions
We
of
just
dollars.
don't have people bankrolling the stuff.
Yeah.
We could literally, we can have the issue of climate change solved now.
Yeah.
We could have the planet dip 2 degrees right now. But who's going to pay for the white paint to paint the fake little drones that we have to put up to make it look like it's ice caps to reflect more of the sunlight and drive our temperature back down? It can be done right now, but who's
It's a
going to put on the
business that doesn't
billions to
have
get it
any
done?
return. That's the problem.
Yes.
Yeah. They want
Unless
a
it says
return for their
Tesla on the
investment.
side,
Sure, yeah, some
or
type of
Amazon, and
advertising.
have that little penis imprint
Oh,
thing
dude,
that
Amazon
Amazon has.
icebergs.
Yeah,
Just big Amazon logo. You're
it
on
could be
some
done,
cruise
bro.
in the Arctic, and you're like, "Is that an Amazon iceberg?"
It can be done, bro.
Oh yeah, for sure. Mark, there's always a question that I ask my guests towards the end of the podcast: is if you could make a phone call to the 15-year-old version of you. So I really want you to put your head in that mindset of who you were at 15. And
me at 15.
this is an alternate reality. It's not going to affect your current state at all, but you've gathered all of this information so far in your life. So, you could give a lot of advice to this younger version of yourself, or you could not, it's totally up to you. But you get on that call, what do you say?
Well, first of all, if I'm calling my 15-year-old self, we didn't have call waiting back in those days. So hopefully I wasn't on the phone, because I was hitting on some chicks back in those. I was chasing pum harsh when I was 15. And if I was on a call with one of them girls, there's no way for me to answer the call. But let's say, and then we had they didn't have answering machines back then either. So let's say, for the sake of this,
sure,
if I did get in contact with me.
Yeah, you wrote a pigeon carrier letter.
If I did get me on the phone and then I was able to impart knowledge to my 15-year-old self, my 15-year-old self would not listen to me.
That's a lot of people say.
I mean, I could still try. And one of the major things that I would probably, like I'd tell myself to, all right, let me put it this way. The same advice that I give my kids now, I'd probably give myself, right? I got 4 kids and they hate me because I preach this to them all the time, right? Find your passion. This is your goal in life, right? Find your passion. Monetize your passion. And then do that for the rest of your life. It's a simple 3-step program, right? Now, finding your passion isn't an easy thing, right? Because your passion can change. It can evolve. Finding your passion is the first stage of life. Monetizing your passion, because we live in a capitalist society and you're going to need money, right? So
Mhm.
whether you become an athlete, whether you become an accountant, whether you become or even if you, let's say you did become an athlete and you got injured, right? You found your passion, but something happened. Find a way to monetize and being around your passion. So you could be, like I said, a podcaster. You could be somebody interviewing the athletes. You could get into kinesiology. You could repair athletes, right? There's so many things that you could do around your passion. So find your passion, monetize your passion, because we live in the capitalist society. You want to have the ability to pay rent. You want to have the ability to have a mortgage, whatever the case may be, and then pursue that for the rest of your life. Because even if you're doing something which, let's say, is not as financially rewarding as you would want it to be, you still have the ability to know that you're doing the thing that you would wake up and do for free anyway, right? Because
Yeah.
if it was something that's truly your passion, money isn't the object. But, you know, you need money. It's a capitalist
It's, yeah,
society,
it's not the
right?
object, but it is the necessity, unfortunately.
It is, a thing, right? Listen, I still do what I do now as a stand-up comedian. I still do what I do now for free. There are
Mhm.
shows that I perform for free on, right? Money isn't the main thing for me, but I do need it because I have 4 kids, a wife and a dog, 2 cats, a snake, and a mortgage,
You
right?
got
So
a
I have
snake.
to, yeah, we have a snake too.
I love the
That's
mortgage comes last in the priority below snake.
yeah. I mean, because you could rent. You don't need to have a
Yeah,
house. You
yeah,
could
yeah.
rent, right?
But you gotta
So
feed the snake.
yeah, I gotta feed them little fuckers, man. They eat, bro. And the snake eats the least, so he's a little easier. So,
Oh, that's
but
good.
yeah, so I would give myself that same advice: find your passion, monetize your passion, and do that for the rest of your life, because it's not a bad life.
Oh,
I've I've been pursuing my passion for 37 years and have no intention of slowing down. I'm still doing it, baby.
and no regrets.
None. You know when a comedian retires? When they fucking die.
Yeah, yeah,
When they
yeah. In
can't
the
talk no more.
hotel room when they croak.
Yeah, and some of them listening to In Excess. No, it's dude, what a ride.
Yeah,
And I'd rather be doing this than be having a desk job. That ADHD. Desk jobs don't work for us, right? So yeah,
I
I'll do
can't.
this till the day I die, bro.
Dude, I was so young when I figured that out about life. When I was told like the myth of, yeah, go to college, get your degree, your diploma, whatever, and then meet someone, and then you get married, and then you get your mortgage, and then you get your house, and then you have your
Yeah,
kids, and you just work that 9 to 5 for 50 years, and then you retire. They give you a watch, and you move to Florida, and you just sit on the beach and
yeah, no,
roast till you're 80,
no,
and then you die of a heart attack because of all
no.
the shit food that you ate over
There's
your
a
life.
world to discover,
It's
not
like,
just Florida.
what?
There's a
I don't want.
world out there, man.
I don't want to do that.
Taipei, Thailand,
Yeah, yeah,
New
yeah.
Zealand. You know what I mean?
Bali.
There's so many
Yeah,
places
yeah,
to see and discover and learn. No, no, no.
yeah, yeah,
There's no
yeah.
such thing for me in my mindset as retirement,
Hmm.
right? Because I'll be
Yeah.
learning every step of the way. So
and
yeah,
and the job itself isn't physically demanding in a way that it wears your body down. Do you know, like a lot of people
yeah.
who,
But you don't
if
have to
you're
stand
a
up.
bricklayer for
You could
40,
sit
50
down,
years, yeah, yeah, you can
right?
literally sit.
So yeah,
That's the flexibility of being a stand-up comedian, is you don't even have to stand.
no,
you,
you can
you
sit
can
down.
sit on the stool with a beer in your hand and just talk shit.
You get to drink at work, bro.
Yeah, yeah,
You get to
yeah.
go to work high. Come
I
on,
don't know
man.
how everyone isn't a comedian.
It's the shit, yo.
Mark, I'm going to share your stuff here for people watching on YouTube. It's marktrinidad.com for the
Oh,
website.
there you go. Look at that.
Um,
That's
at
a very pensive kind of Mark Trinidad
Yeah.
right there. Oh, there's
I
my
am
Instagram too.
Mark Trinidad on Instagram, Mark
Uh,
Trinidad on X or Twitter, formerly known as.
yeah, I don't use
And
that anymore.
you're like, I'm off that shit. And then the Facebook page too. I mean,
Yeah, there's my
always
geeky jersey. Yeah.
always go check out all of the social media stuff.
That's the company I rep, geeky jerseys. So you'll see the
Oh,
movies
cool.
jerseys.
Yeah,
This one
yeah.
is this one's the Luke Cage one.
Oh, I love it.
All right. So yeah. That's
That's
my
so
guys, man.
cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome. All those links, everyone, are always in the description down below. Mark, thanks so much for making the time to come on the show. Like, I
I
really
had
appreciate
a
chatting with
great
you.
time with you, brother. We'll do it again anytime
Oh,
you want.
100%. Yeah. Hit me up anytime that you want to come on for sure. For everybody watching, make sure you hit subscribe, leave a comment, share the episode with a friend. That always helps. And if you're on Apple, leave a 5-star review. That also helps. If you want these episodes ad-free before anyone else, you got to go to patreon.com/SeeJohnnyRogers. It's the only way to get it. But for now, I've been your host, Johnny Rogers. I'll see you on the next one.
You've been listening to The Johnny Rogers Show. New episodes air every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.